My demo isn't based on identity, right? Like, I think so many comics and so many people in general build their audiences based on identity. Because I've never built it like that, I've built it on flagrancy, right? I built it on, I'm going to say the fucked up jokes and have the fucked up takes. I'm going to say that animals should die. I'm going to say global warming's good.
Yeah.
And the reality is jokes should deal with the worst and scariest things. Yeah. That's why we have humor. This like shit where you like make jokes about shit that everybody already agrees about, that comedy doesn't exist. That dies. Yeah. You will be forgotten.
The way I do comedy is just super vulnerable, super honest, tell you everything, and then hopefully tell some good story, put storytelling in it.
Yeah.
Your style is very different. I don't think I know much about, you're like Tasha a little bit, like we were talking about Daniel Tosh.
Yeah. I never thought that I was worth talking about until recently.
For real?
Yeah. I thought it was a very arrogant and like narcissistic thing for like comics that like had nothing to go up there and be like, today a weird thing happened to me.
Really?
And I was like, well, who the fuck are you?
Well, I don't have the ability to do what you do,
right.
Or Burr and Chappelle.
I think you earn talking about your life. As I've gotten some more success in my career, I've started to try to make things more personal because I think it like is justified now.
So I started reading all these books about like storytelling and like understanding like 3-arc structure and all this kind of shit.
Oh.
And I was like, okay, maybe I can turn this into a story. And then I was like, I don't want anybody coming to the show to know that it's a story. Yeah, so like we do IVF and everything. That's what the special is about. Like it's just the story of us trying to
There was
get
a
pregnant.
study,
So back in 2022, Andrew Schulz was on fire, pushing boundaries, dropping viral clips, and making a name for himself as the edgy comic who didn't play by the rules. When streamers wouldn't buy his comedy special without major edits, he basically self-funded, self-produced, and sold it directly to fans as a special too offensive for streaming. Then he dropped it on YouTube and it worked. It was massively successful, no censorship, sold out tours, and even multiple sold out shows at Madison Square Garden. It was insane. And then eventually he got an actual comedy special on Netflix. But here's the problem. After all that noise about not selling out and standing by your material, Schulz completely pivoted. The new special aimed to be emotional, way safer, and clearly for a different audience. And while it wasn't bad and it was very, very successful, my main complaint was a drastic and sudden change in his comedy style. And naturally, it does make you wonder if the change was honest, meaning that he wanted to get away from being an edgy comic after becoming a dad, or if he was using the opportunity to sell a massive rebrand that would allow him to enter those big boy markets and compete with those currently at the top. So let's get started.
I saw there's a thing that happened that kind of, it didn't explain your fame, it explained how you're selling so many tickets to me, right? Because obviously I saw it, it was amazing, been a fan, but the perception at first was like, okay, this is really personal. He's talking about like really specific, his culture. Okay, maybe Italians are coming out in droves. And it was a Somali friend of mine that goes, oh yeah, I mean, like me and my mom watch him like crazy. That's like her favorite comedian. It's one of my favorite comedians. And I go, explain that. And he goes, oh, like everything he talks about is my family. I go, what? And he goes, yeah. And at that moment I realized it's a first generation or second generation relatability in America. Mm. And it's probably why, from my mom's side, why I'm kind of relating to it, but with all these people coming out.
You don't have to be Italian to get this. You could be Indian, you could be Puerto Rican, black, whatever you are.
Yeah.
If you have like a family and a dynamic in your family, but I use my father as a big source of comedy, I think people relate to it regardless of what background you're from. Yeah, it is an immigrant story.
Yeah.
It has those immigrant, little innuendos that, maybe some immigrant families could relate to more than others, but at the core, it's just the family. And
now, let's be fair for a second. Having his dad introduce him was a nice moment. The special looked clean, well produced, and yeah, there were some solid jokes in there. No one's saying that Andrew Schulz forgot how to be funny, but the special doesn't exist in a vacuum. And when you stack it up next to the version of Schulz that blew up, the guy who roasted everyone, thrived on controversy, and bragged about betting on himself, this feels like a completely different person. Not an evolved one, but a rebranded one aiming to be more mainstream and more likable, which is insane because he had already proven to the world that he could be massively successful and wealthy doing what he did. But deep down, he knew that if he wanted to take it to the next level, he had to get away from his past and avoid being seen as that toxic, edgy comedian or podcaster that would put all his guests through awkward situations just for the troll and the views. And so instead of taking the risk, he basically went the Bert Kreischer route, because when it comes to Bert, he's definitely not a clean comic. He can have some pretty edgy jokes on podcasts, but when he gets on stage, he chooses to be more relatable and safer. And it makes sense because when you look at the top comedians at the moment, they all mainly talk about families or their relationships. But also, in my opinion, it also seems a lot easier because instead of having to grind on a bit until it finally works, you can simply tell a story and update your fans about whatever you have going on in your life. And that 100% works.
I've just seen a couple of the rappers. As I started following one because I was like, I was like curious to be like, well, what's this dude's life? Like, you know, you just want to watch him. He's doing some, you know, they're doing rock venues and they're doing all this, and they're millions of followers, and they have all the stuff, the watches, and you're like, I'm just like, is this guy? Is it, you know, is that guy going to sell out Madison Square Garden? And I don't know if it is. I mean, maybe it is. Maybe I'm completely wrong. But it's the fascinating. You get this audience that's on board with you with social media, but like they're not going to translate. They're not going to go with you for your career. People want to grow with their people, I think. If you like someone, you're like, I'd like to grow. Like, you see them have a family, and then they have this, and they kind of just keep talking about their evolution of life. And that's what you enjoy watching. You know, our daughter goes to school, rides the bus. Like, it's trying to let her like have the most normal kind of like existence. And I think it's good for comics because I'm doing normal things.
It lets your material be pure in that it's just really who you are and what you, and I never really had a problem with that, but I know some people who would be hoping that they would get on a sitcom or hoping they would, you know, get a deal somewhere. And so they would tone down bits. They were doing these things where it was like real obvious that they were kind of captured by the idea of being a part of the system. Like, if I play my cards right, one day I'll be Kevin Hart. If I play my cards right, one day I'll be Jimmy Fallon. I'll host a show, I'll do this. And so you're kind of captured by this possible promise of money that comes from this weird place.
And you can't deny it's a completely different approach to wanting to become the GOAT, because back then, before, Schulz thought that in order to compete with Rock, Chappelle, or Louis, he needed to say the most insane and funny things and have a strong opinion to get people talking.
There's 5 people that should have comedy specials now.
That's more than
There's
that.
5.
Hey,
You, Rock, Chappelle, Louis, Burr. That's it. Everybody else should be in acquisition phase. Why?
I don't know about that, man. I don't buy into that. First of all, I don't think that way. I never worry about what other people are doing.
But now he realized that that isn't his competition anymore. And if he wants to be at the top right now, his competition is Nate, Bert, and Sebastian. And by the way, don't forget to like the video. It helps out so much and I really appreciate that. Thank you. And so now it does make sense why he changed his approach to be more of a storyteller. But back then it completely took me off guard, because when I first saw him for the live tour last year, I was expecting some crowd work and some wild jokes like the ones that he was posting on his YouTube channel. But then when I heard him tell the most Bert Kreischer type story ever, I was completely shocked. Now, to be fair, if you like Bert Kreischer, Nate, or Sebastian, meaning a more family style comedy special, then you'll likely enjoy the live comedy special. But if you're an old Andrew Schulz fan that was expecting him to break Netflix with some wild jokes like he did at the roast of Tom Brady, then this was a disappointment. But also the way that Andrew Schulz talks about the special or the story, he's making it sound like it was so deep and sad that it's breaking even the biggest haters. But let's be real, in my opinion, the story wasn't that sad or that crazy at the end of the day. I mean, it can make you emotional and make you feel happy for Schulz, but the story itself is very surface level. And also, I completely disagree with the narrative that the special was so deep and personal that Andrew Schulz basically gave everyone the nuke and the fuel to make fun of him, and so therefore, no one should be getting mad at Schulz when he makes fun of somebody else.
You know, I make fun of everybody, but I also make fun of myself.
It's self-deprecating.
It's the most.
You cannot watch, if you watch that special and you get mad at Andrew Schulz ever again for clowning somebody, You're just being biased.
I gave you the nuke on me.
Yep.
Anybody who wants to make fun of me for the red, Taylor almost
Taylor
made me
been
commit suicide.
Taylor shot the nuke
Immediately.
for no reason.
Immediately.
I remember, I'm like, yo, Taylor, there was no need to press the red button.
She nuked me twice.
And you created a body. See, for comedians, it's like your album.
That, yeah,
It's like, yo, you put out a dope ass album. Like, you
That's
put
what
out
I
an
feel
album. To me, that is a classic.
Thank
but
you,
once
man.
again, everybody gonna say I'm biased. You know what I mean? But
Good.
all I do is tell you, go watch the shit for yourself.
Yeah, you go watch it.
You know?
You see. Hopefully you like it, and hopefully you get something from it. And shout out everybody that worked on it, man.
Yeah.
And I was gonna say it's also cool because you were able to do it exactly how you wanted it. Because last time they were trying to make you not like cut some stuff out.
Yeah, they were cool. They were very cool. And shout out to Netflix for letting me do that, man. I really appreciate that.
And just creating a piece of content that that means something. I just feel like you see a lot of shit nowadays that's just like yuck it up for the moment type shit.
It's
You know
like
what I mean?
everything is a reaction channel.
But I thought it was her fault too.
Yeah.
So it was very surprising.
Yeah.
And then I just started talking about it on stage, and it was like so weird. I thought, I mean, this is kind of cliche, but I literally thought that this was like an anomaly that nobody goes through.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like talk about it on stage, and like these like guys would come up to me afterwards, and they wouldn't admit it, but they'd be like, "Yo, that was some funny stuff right there, man. Like, yeah, you should keep doing that. That was good. That was good." And I was like, "What's going on?" And I started like talking to friends, and they would every one of them was like, "Oh yeah, we're doing IVF." Like everybody, I'm 41, so I'm a little older, obviously,
Yeah.
but like I didn't know.
So did we, because
You guys did it?
the second
sick.
baby.
The second time around, we didn't even.
I didn't know this. Have you guys
Yeah.
spoken about this before?
Not really. Have we, like, we
With
were so
no
in
casual-
it that we didn't.
But
Okay.
like, it wasn't even. We didn't even go like, let's try and then do it. We just went straight to it.
You went, okay.
Well,
yeah.
because
Wait, why?
because we were
well,
older.
I'll tell you why. So, but
You
but
took a
here's-
look at Christina.
I was
Like,
like,
"Them
"Oh,
eggs."
eggs." For sure.
Poached.
Woo!
This kid's not gonna be able to eat
So,
with a fork if we do it the
no.
regular way.
Because the first baby I had at 39. Like I delivered at I think 38 or 39.
Oh, wow.
Now, to me, the idea that we should feel bad for a massively successful and wealthy comedian who has access to all the best medical treatments in the world and endless resources for using IVF, it doesn't really make any sense because according to my little research, and I could be wrong, but according to what I saw, it sounds like as long as you have the funds, you have the resources and the time, when it comes to IVF, couples like Andrew and his wife are in a pretty good position, all things considered, since technically Schulz was the one with the problem and not his wife. And usually that is what makes the process a lot tougher. But in this case, his wife looks young and healthy. And so again, based on the data, they were and are in a pretty good position. And of course, I'm sure it's still a tough experience and it puts a lot of pressure on the relationship. But the point is that it's not like they were both broke and didn't have the $20,000 or however much it cost per cycle, because it's pretty expensive. But also, he's technically not the only or the first comedian to ever talk about it. Maybe he is the first one to make the whole special about it and talk about himself being the problem. But if you watch Ronnie's comedy special on Netflix, the first 10 to 15 minutes are very similar to Schulz's material. I'm not saying there was any copying, I'm just saying it's been talked about before, except in his case, it was because he was having too much fun being wealthy and famous, and so he wanted to put off having kids for now by freezing the embryos. And so Schulz being open and honest hits differently when it's part of the business model. Like, there's no nuke or way to make fun of Schulz for not being able to have babies, because he already did. Not only did he make a baby, but he made a special and made a lot of money. And so once again, in my opinion, him sharing that story wasn't that crazy at the end of the day.
So when you do that, and then you do all of the great press that you're doing, you can't expect to go online and see videos of people actually saying good things. They're not gonna do that. There's not gonna be no reaction videos that give it up and be like, man, you know what? I really enjoyed the life. Yo, you know what? I really enjoyed him on Shay Shay.
There's no money in that.
No,
there's no views in that.
No,
Get your money, though. Get your money, man. As long as you talking about me, we're good.
And that's all.
As long as you talk about me, I'm not talking about you. We are good.
Because the algorithm don't know the difference.
They really don't. They really do. And low key, all I got to do is bring people back to the special. And then once you watch the special, you make your decisions up right there.
Hate watch.
Hey.
Cat Williams said it a long time ago. Hate is just confused admiration. It's okay. It's okay.
And you know what? Prophets let people convert.
That's right.
You don't know what it's like to work really hard on something
give it out there to the world for them to hate it or love it. That's a vulnerable, scary thing. You just hate things. We want to bring the old Jimmy back.
Man cave Jimmy.
We want, yo,
Hell,
man,
Jimmy, don't ever bring that motherfucker
Man
back.
Show Jimmy is
It's
goated.
over. He did that already. Let the man live.
Yeah, but sometimes you gotta run it back.
They're gonna say that after they see the life.
Yeah.
But that's what they're gonna say. They're gonna watch the life, which is a
I'm
fantastic
busting
special.
Jimmy's balls, man. Jimmy's a grown-ass man. Obviously, things change and your life priorities change.
Yes.
You know? Come on.
Yes.
It's
You
like
know what I mean?
everything is a reaction channel.
Yeah, man.
And like, which is fine too. We're out here reacting to shit. Don't get me wrong, but there is something about. I would love everybody that reacts to stuff to create something and put it out to be judged, because you might have a different feeling towards the reactions you have. Like, that's why even with the thing with Kendrick, like I really admire somebody, like the halftime performance. I admire somebody putting something out and working hard on something to be judged by the world.
Absolutely.
There is admiration, regardless of what else went down. So,
and you take what comes with it.
You got to.
Because art is subjective.
Yep.
Period. Like,
Yep.
if you're the type of person that puts something out to the world and all you can stand is the good comments, you're not built for this. Like, because everybody going to have an opinion. Some people going to like it. Some people not going to like it. Some people not even going to give a fuck. So who should you focus on?
Yep.
None of it. Exactly.
Yeah.
I did the best work that I possibly could.
Yeah.
I gave it to the world. Hey, y'all have at it, man.
And look, when it comes to Schulz, he definitely understands marketing, trends, timing. I mean, he saw the podcast comedy boom during the lockdown when comics could say anything and sell out shows, and he knew that moment wouldn't last forever. So instead of doubling down and owning that edgy lane, he made a business move, which is fair, but this whole argument that if you don't like the special, then you're somehow biased is a massive cope. Again, I'm not saying the special was bad or not funny at all, but to me, it was a clear sign that he was kind of done being an edgelord and was moving on to a different style of comedy. Because at this point, I don't think he's trying to become the best joke writer and instead just wants to be the most famous, kind of like Bert, which is fine. He played it safe, but made it forgettable. And the coping is out of control because there's no deep or complex motivation fueled by jealousy or simply doing what works for the algorithm that's silly. And that might be a self-report because if you remember, the Flagrant podcast wasn't the friendliest environment or platform for the guest, because back then Andrew Schulz would often put them in awkward situations with uncomfortable questions, showing that he really didn't care at all and just wanted to show everyone how edgy he was. I still remember when he asked Brendan Schaub about walking Annie Letterman to his truck, which was a big deal back then. It would be like asking Logan Paul about CryptoSuit today, something that he would never do now. And it shows how much he's changed because he used to have this edgy persona that didn't care about anyone, but now he pretends to be the nicest guy who can't handle criticism of his work.
What did you learn?
Oh God!
Because you're a podcast host too.
So this is the thing. Like, I'm learning so much about just. I never cared to be famous. Like, I knew being famous would be a byproduct of my goals with comedy, which is to be like the greatest, right? So, but I never like cared to be famous. So I never tried to like learn what it was to be famous or that kind of thing. So I didn't realize how offensive you have to be with fame.
Explain.
Like, the second your name garners views, people will use your name to get views and make a living and react to your stuff or whatever like that. Like, obviously we know there's so much like reaction content out right now. And you know, there's another thing just about like reaction content in general. It's like, yeah, it's very popular. You know, it is what it is. It's very popular. But and then once you get to a certain amount of followers and a certain amount of success, people use your name for those views. And that's like part of being successful. Like, you have to pay the cost of that. But my reaction to that was just like, I'm just gonna ignore it and keep on putting out art.
Yes.
Yes, but also you also gotta snipe when it's ready to snipe. And you also gotta take exact shots. And you don't have to talk about the people. You could sub the people so you're not actually saying their name.
Subs are so good.
Oh, and then hit those.
There was a time I didn't used to like subs, but subs are so
it's almost better. Because then they come screaming and you're like, what are you talking about?
The thing that makes me okay with accepting criticism is that all the people I admire are the most criticized people. Taylor Swift is like, there's no more criticized. Like, she's getting booed at the Super Bowl. Also, you can't respond to people who don't really have a face. You can't respond to ideas. Like, I can respond to Kendrick because Kendrick is the biggest rapper in the world. Can't respond to like some YouTube video. You know, it's just, in my mind, I'm like, okay, now I'm just blowing that thing up.
I'm just adding gas to it. You know? Yeah, the Kendrick thing was interesting. Yeah, that was wild.
And so, even though the special wasn't as bad as like Burn the Boats, to me, it did feel like Andrew Schulz was trying to distance himself from his edgy past. And this way, he could be seen as a more serious and credible comedian by his new fan base. We've mentioned this before, but there is a chance that he's trying to be more like Bill Maher and less like Joe Rogan. And if you look at the way that he's rebranding everything, it does make sense. Now he's definitely going for that late night show feel. And so, once again, the special wasn't horrible. It was clearly made for a different audience. And if you're a casual comedy fan, I'm pretty sure you will like it. But if you have been watching Andrew Schulz since before the infamous comedy special, then it will probably feel like a massive, like a big change, you know, going from strong bits and jokes to more storytelling type comedy. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. Leave a like and subscribe to support the channel. Dislike if you didn't like the video. But that is all we have for today. See ya.
Did Emma take down your Die Hard poster? What's going on? What's going on at home, Emma?
You come in.
What's going on at home?
You come in and you tell me that you're lying about something.
What's going on? Are you shooting?
I need to get to the bottom of it.
Are you shooting blanks? Why are you such a grump?
Yes. How am I grumpy?
You have some rage at me.